Praises to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to everyone joining on this program. This is the Fountain of Israel's Bible Studies program, and as always, it's an honor for me to stand before you on the Lord's holy Sabbath day. Now, this one is a little bit different from our regular holy days, but before we get into that, let me remind you to like, share, comment, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Don't forget to smash that notification bell because I don't want you to miss any of our lessons. And if you care to donate, check the description box down below. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into our lesson. And this one is Purim, the Feast of Lots. Purim, the Feast of Lots. Now, let me say at the outset that this particular holy day is not your typical holy day as far as it's concerned in Leviticus or in Torah. This is one of those holy days is outside of the God's plan of salvation, which we find in the Torah, right? So we're not talking about Passover or Pentecost or atonement and the like, right? So we're just talking about a couple of the holy days that's outside of Torah, okay? So with that, we're going to talk about Purim, the Feast of Lots, what it means, where it came from, look at a little bit of history so we can go forward. Now, that is also to say that if some of you do not wish to participate in Purim, that is fine. I'm not saying that it is necessarily commanded, but some people would like to memorialize, just like we memorialize all the other ones. Some people would like to memorialize these special events found in the scriptures. So this one is no different. So we're going to look at it and we are going to review a little bit of some history about it, but just a little overview. Let's look at it. Purim, okay, which is Hebrew for lots, okay, or in English, the Feast of Lots, a joyous Jewish festival commemorating the survival of the Jews who, in the 5th century BCE, were marked for death by the Persian rulers. Okay, and obviously we find this in the book of Esther, which that's where we will be today. But let's give you a little bit, just a little overview. It says that Haman, chief minister of King Ahasuerus, incensed that Mordecai, a Jew, held him in disdain and refused obeisance, convinced the king that the Jews living under Persian rule were rebellious and should be slaughtered with the king's consent. And then Haman set a date for the execution, the 13th day of the month of Adar, by casting lots and build a gallows for Mordecai. So now you have an idea. It's just an overview, but we're gonna get a little bit deeper in there, right? But I'm going to be interchanging when it says Jewish. I'm going to be interchanging that word with Israelite from time to time. I'm just letting you guys know ahead of time, okay? So let's look at some traditional history, all right? Persis, early 3rd century BCE, provides context for the account in that he records the introduction of idols of Anahita under Artaxerxes II Neman, okay, throughout the Persian Empire. The 1st century CE historian Josephus recounts the origins of Purim in the book 11 of his Antiquities of the Jews. He follows the Hebrew book of Esther, but shows awareness of some of the additional materials found in the Greek version, the Septuagint, in that he too identifies Ahasuerus as Artaxerxes and provides the text of the king's letter. He also provides additional information on the dating of events relative to Ezra and Nehemiah. Josephus also records the Persian persecution of Jews and mentions Jews being forced to worship at Persian erected shrines. Josephon of 10th century CE, compilation of Jewish history, includes an account of the origins of Purim in its chapter 4. It too follows the original biblical account and includes additional traditions matching those found in the Greek version and Josephus, whom the author claims as a source. And with the exception of the details of the letters found in latter works, it also provides other contextual information related to Jewish and Persian history, such as the identification of Darius the Mede as the uncle and father-in-law of Cyrus. Okay, so we're getting some deeper history here. A brief Persian account of events is provided by Islamic historian Muhammad Jahar al-Tabari, in his History of the Prophets and Kings, completed in 915 CE. Basing his accounts on Jewish and Christian sources, al-Tabari provides additional details such as the original Persian form, the Astura for Esther. He places events during the rule of Artaxerxes II, but confuses him with Artaxerxes al-Talwil al-Ba, nailed it, Artaxerxes I, while assuming Ahasuerus to be named of a co-ruler. In another brief Persian account is recorded by Masudi in the Meadows of Gold, completed in 947 CE. He refers to a Jewish woman who had married the Persian king Haman, Artaxerxes II, and delivered her people, thus corroborating this identification of Ahasuerus. He also mentions the woman's daughter, Kumai, who is not known in Jewish tradition but is well remembered in Persian folklore. Al-Tabari calls her Kumani and tells how her father, Haman, married her. Ferdowsi, in his Shamnameh, nailed it, also tells of King Bahama marrying Kumai. 19th century Bible commentaries generally identify Ahasuerus as Xerxes the first of Persia. So we're starting to get some corroboration there. And the one thing that I feel we should walk away from is that it's an actual account, that the things that are outlined in Esther is historical. Okay, that we're testing the veracity of the account. And by all accounts, it happened. Different perspectives may play a role in the telling of the story, in the telling of the events, but nothing suggests that the events did not happen. Let us continue. The context and the background of Esther, let's look at it. The event occurred during the Persian captivity between 483 and 473. During the first half of the reign of King Xerxes, the Greek name, is also translated to Ahasuerus, the Hebrew name. The events took place in Susa, the capital city of Persia, which is modern-day Iran. The opening banquet scene is in Esther corresponds to the historical time period of Xerxes' military campaign against the Greeks in 479 BC. The Greeks defeated the Persians. The first remnant of the people captured have returned to Judah to restore the temple and worship. Mordecai and others remained in Persia. Esther is unique because of the absence of any references to God or use God's name. However, God's sovereign care of the Jews permeates the book. The book explains the Feast of Purim, still celebrated by Jews to remember the deliverance from Haman's evil plot. So we're going to look at a couple of things. But again, people observe it. Now I know it's talking about Jews and we're talking about the other Jews, but there are some actual biblical Jews, at least from the lineage or bloodline believed to be, that want to observe these things, to commemorate these things. Now again, guys, some people have a conviction and say, hey, it's unnecessary, we don't have to do it, we're not commanded. Okay, fine. Some people say, you know what, I want to be aligned with this, I want to commemorate it and memorialize it. Okay, fine, right? It's a celebration of not being wiped out by the Persians, right? Not being just completely annihilated or decimated. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at. So we're going to look at chapter 1 in Esther. Now that we've dealt with a little bit of the history, let's go ahead and look at chapter 1. We're going to start at verse 1, give you guys some context. We'll read verse 2 as well. Chapter 2 as well. And again, we are going to jump around just a little bit, but we're going to just follow pretty much. We'll jump around a little bit, but I'll let you know what we are, right? Check the description box down below if you need the scripts. Okay, so Esther. And it came to be in the days of, and before I get started, I'm sorry, I am reading from the scriptures version, so the names may sound a little bit different, or my enunciation will be terrible, but I'll do my best. And it came to be in the days of Ahasuerus, He is the Ahasuerus who reigned from India to Kush, 127 provinces. And in those days when sovereign Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his reign, which was in the citadel of Shushan, that in the 3rd year of his reign he made a feast for all his officials and servants, the power of Persia and Media. The nobles and the princes of the province were before him, when he showed the riches of his esteemed reign and the splendor of his excellent greatness for many days, 180 days. And when these days were completed, the sovereign made a feast lasting 7 days for all the people who were present in the citadel of Shushan, from great to small, in the courtyard of the garden of the sovereign's palace. White and blue tapestries were fastened with cords of fine linen and purple on silver rods and marble columns. The couches were of gold and silver on a mosaic pavement of forest and marble and mother of pearl and black marble. And they served drinks in golden vessels, and vessels being different from one another, with much royal wine according to the hand of the sovereign. And drinking was according to the law. No one was compelled. For so the sovereign had ordered all the officers of his house that they should do according to each other's pleasure. Sovereigness Vashti also made a feast for the women in the royal palace, which sovereign Ahasuerus owned. On the 7th day, when the heart of the sovereign was glad with wine, and he ordered Mehuman, Bista, Harbana, Bigtha, and Abatha, Zethar, and Carcas, the 7 eunuchs who were in the attendance in the presence of the sovereign Ahasuerus, to bring sovereigness Vashti before the sovereign, and with her royal crown, in order to show her loveliness to the people and the officials, for she was lovely to look upon. But sovereigness Vashti refused to come at the sovereign's command, brought by his eunuchs. And the sovereign was very wroth, and his rage burned within him. I'd be pretty upset too. So the sovereign said to the wise men who understood the times, for in this way the sovereign's matters came before all who knew law and right ruling, and who were close to him: Koshina, Shethar, Egmata, Tarshish, Meresh, Marsina, Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, who saw the sovereign's face, who sat first in the reign. According to the law, what is to be done to sovereigness Vashti, because she did not perform the command of the sovereign Ahasuerus through the eunuchs? And Memucan answered before the sovereign and princes: Sovereigness Vashti has misbehaved not only toward the sovereign, but also toward all the princes and all the people who are in all the provinces of sovereign Ahasuerus. For the matter of the sovereigness shall go forth to all women, to make their husbands despise in their eyes, when they say, Sovereigness Ahasuerus commanded sovereign Vashti to be brought in before him, but she did not come. See, pause to note. There's just a point of order, right? Not only is this your husband, and that should be enough, but this is also the king. So the women, regardless, your husband and king gives you a command, it should be followed. It should be followed. And this one is to show up. It's just to come into his presence so everybody can see. That's one of the things, if you ever heard the phrase, trophy wife. Well, that's kind of like what's going on. It's like, hey, Vashti is beautiful. This is a 10. Let me show you guys a dime real quick. Let me show you a 10. This is a 10. But she refused to come. It's disrespectful. And it will embolden other women to kind of do the same thing, to disrespect their princes and these captains and just husbands in general. Not a good look. So, let us continue. 18. And this day the princesses of Persia and Media shall say to all the sovereign's officials that they have heard of the matter of the sovereigness with plenty of scorn and wrath. And if it pleases the sovereign, let a royal decree go out from him, and let it be recorded in the laws of the Persians and the Medes, so that it does not pass away, that Vashti shall come no more before the sovereign Ahasuerus, and let the sovereign give her royal position to another who is better than she. I'm sorry if someone feels different. This was pretty much the right course of action to maintain order. That one man's opinion. Let's continue. 20. And the sovereign decree which he makes shall be proclaimed throughout all his rule, great as it is, and all the wives give esteem to their husbands, both great and small. See, it doesn't matter. See, you're trying to maintain order. That's what trying to maintain order, and it doesn't matter if you're a captain of the armies or you're just a 9-to-5 husband. You deserve that respect. Okay, that respect has to be given. You need that, both great and small. 21. And the word was good in the eyes of the sovereign and the princes, and the sovereign did according to the word of Memucan. So he sent the letters to all the sovereign's provinces, to each province in its own writing, and to every people in their own language, that each man should be master of his own house and speak in the language of his people. You gotta maintain order. Okay. So that's basically what's happening in chapter 1. She's moved. She is removed from her position. Somebody else is going to get it. We all know who's going to get that position. But you just got to maintain order. But now, as a quick aside, I want you guys, the ladies who's watching it, okay, ladies who's watching it, you tell me, and please put it down below. Are you willing to give up your seat? Now, let's not imagine anything else. Let's not imagine, oh, he's abusive. Oh, maybe he did something. Let's not speculate. That is just conjecture. Let's just go by what the scriptures actually give us, which is he wanted her to show off her beauty, and she did not want to come. So I'm asking you, is it worth giving up your position as a queen just because you don't want to show people how beautiful you are? Okay? And let's try not to use too much of a modern mindset there. Right? So you're going to give up your seat just because you don't want someone to look at you like that? Does that make sense to any? Let us continue. We're going to go ahead and go to chapter 2 because it makes absolutely no sense to me, but hey, maybe I'm missing something. Comment down below. Chapter 2 of Esther. After these events, when the wrath of the sovereign Ahasuerus had ceased, and remembered Vashti, what she had done, and what had been decreed against her, then the sovereign's servants who attended him said, let lovely young maidens be sought for the sovereign, and let the sovereign appoint officers in all the provinces of his reign, and let them gather all the lovely young maidens to the citadel of Shushan, into the women's quarters, under the hand of Haggai, the sovereign's eunuch, guardian of the women, to give their preparations. And let the young women who pleases the sovereigns be sovereigness instead of Vashti, okay, to be a queen, right? And the word pleased the sovereign, and he did so. Verse 5. In the citadel of Susa, there was a certain man, a Yehudi, whose name was Mordecai, son of Yared, son of Shimei, son of Kish, a Binyamite, right? Who had been exiled from Jerusalem with the captives who had been exiled with Jeconiah, sovereign of Yehuda, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the sovereign of Babel, had exiled. And it came to be that he was raising Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The young woman was beautiful and of good appearance. And when her father and mother died, Mordecai took her as his own daughter. And it came to be when the sovereign's command and decree were heard, and when many young women were gathered at the citadel of Shushan into the hand of Haggai, that Esther too was taken to the sovereign's palace, into the hand of Haggai, guardian of the women. And the young woman pleased him, and she received loving commitment from him. So he hastened to give her preparation and her portions, and gave her 7 choice female servants from the sovereign's palace. And he moved her and her female servants to the best place in the house of the women. Esther had made known her people or her relatives, for Mordecai had commanded her not to make it known. And let me correct myself. Esther had not made known her people. She didn't tell people she was Israelite, right? Basically. 12. Now when the turn of each young woman came to be in to sovereign Ahasuerus, after she had completed 12 new moons, 12 new moons, 12 months, according to regulations for the women, for the days of their preparation were completed as follows: 6 new moons with oil of myrrh, and 6 new moons with perfumes, and with the preparation of women. Boy, getting them ready to go. This is very nice. Very, very nice. This whole thing was taken very seriously, right? I mean, if you're chosen, you're going to be the queen after all, right? Thus prepared, the young women went to the sovereign, and whatever she asked for was given to take with her from the house of the women to the sovereign's palace. In the evening she went, and in the morning she returned to the second house of the women, into the hand of Shahagas, the sovereign's eunuch, guardian of the concubines. She would not come in to the sovereign again unless the sovereign delighted in her and called for her by name. And when the turn came for Esther, the daughter of Abiel, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as his daughter, to come into the sovereign, she sought no matter but what Haggai, the sovereign's eunuch, guardian of the women, advised. And Esther found favor in the eyes of all who saw her. Pause to note. I want you guys to notice that she didn't have a mother or father, but Mordecai, her uncle, took her in as a daughter. You see how the daughters of Zion, you see how Israelite women are supposed to be covered from cradle to grave, supposed to be watched over, supposed to be guided. And we lost that particular art. We lost that. But we're looking at it. We're looking at an example of this. We're looking at it being demonstrated that, okay, so she can be guided. So her uncle is guiding her because she didn't have her mother and father anymore. And many of our daughters and many of our young women need that today. Just a quick question, just for you to ponder, just for you to consider. Men and women look at relationships a little differently, wouldn't you agree? So if we're looking for a suitor for someone, the way a man would look for a suitor, maybe, just maybe, would be different than the way a woman would look for a suitor. Would you not agree? So if we were to continue in this tradition of women being covered by a male, preferably father, if not an uncle, if not older brothers, you guys get my idea. Would relationships be perhaps different than the outcomes that we are getting today? Something to think about. Comment down below. So we're going to continue in 16. And Esther was taken to the sovereign Ahasuerus into his royal palace in the 10th new moon, which is the new moon of the Tebet, in the 7th year of his reign. And the sovereign loved Esther more than all the women, and she found favor and loving commitment in his eyes more than all the maidens. And he set the royal crown upon her head and made her sovereigness instead of Vashti. Okay. And the sovereign made a great feast, the feast of Esther, for all his officials and servants, and he proclaimed a release in the provinces and gave gifts according to the means of a sovereign. Okay, so you guys, you see what's going on, right? So this is just how I just wanted to read. How did Esther become a queen? We're going to continue, but I wanted to let you guys see that. I wanted that to breathe for a second. Okay, it's just a pause to note. This is how Esther became queen. We're going to go to verse 19 in the 2nd chapter, and this is basically when Haman plots to, he wants to get rid of the Jews. He wants to kill all the Israelites, right? Haman wants to get rid of all the Israelites. So we're going to go ahead and read into that. And we'll get up to 3. We'll read also chapter 3 as well. So 19 of chapter 2. And when maidens were assembled a second time, Mordecai sat within the sovereign's gate, and Esther had not made known her relatives and her people yet, as Mordecai commanded her. For Esther obeyed the command of Mordecai, so she listened to her uncle. And when she was being raised by him, she listened to her uncle. Now that also tells you, okay, so if the Israelites were a dark-skinned people, and in that region of the world, we call it Iran now, but in that region of the world, in this Persian Empire, probably some other dark-skinned people around, because she didn't say who her people was, right? That means she looked like other people, or could pass for some other dark-skinned people, right? So you have to consider some of these things. Some things just to consider. Okay? 21. In those days, while Mordecai sat within the gates, the sovereign's gates, 2 of the sovereign eunuchs, Bethan and Teresh, doorkeepers, were wroth and sought to lay hands on sovereign Ahasuerus. And the matter became known to Mordecai, who informed sovereigness Esther, and Esther spoke to the sovereign in Mordecai's name. And when the matter was searched into, it was confirmed, and both were hanged on a wooden structure, and it was written in the book of the annals in the presence of the sovereign. Right? So Mordecai got word, hey man, they're plotting to take your life, they're plotting to kill you. Go ahead and, she told it to Esther, his niece, and Esther told it to her husband. Okay? Chapter 3. After these events, sovereign Ahasuerus promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha, Agagite, and exalted him and seated him higher than all the princes with him. And all the sovereign servants who were in the sovereign's gate bowed and did obeisance to Haman. For so the sovereign had commanded concerning him, but Mordecai would not bow or do obeisance. And the sovereign servants who were in the sovereign's gate said to Mordecai, why do you disobey the sovereign's command? And it came to be, when they spoke to him daily and he would not listen to them, that they told Haman to see whether the words of Mordecai would stand, for he had told them that he was a Yahudi. And when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow or do obeisance, Haman was filled with wrath. He would not bow or genuflect. Right? And Haman felt disrespected. Verse 6. But it was despicable in the eyes to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had informed him of the people of Mordecai. Therefore Haman sought to destroy all the Yahudim who were throughout all the reign of Ahasuerus, the people of Mordecai. In the first new moon, which is the new moon of Nisan, in the 12th year of sovereign Ahasuerus, someone cast pur, that is, the lot, before Haman from day to day, and from new moon to new moon, until it fell on the 12th month, which is the new moon of Adar. Haman then told sovereign Ahasuerus that there is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your reign, whose laws are different from all the people, and they do not do the sovereign's laws. Therefore, it is not in the sovereign's interest to let them remain. Right? See, they look very similar. It's like they're just scattered out, and one of the ways to tell is that their laws, the God they serve, that's how I was able to tell the difference, right? Because apparently it wasn't by skin color or hair texture, right? 9. If it pleases the sovereign, let a decree be written to destroy them, and let me pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who do the work, to bring it into the sovereign's treasuries. And the sovereign took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Yahudim. And the sovereign said to Haman, the silver and the people are given to you to do with them as it seems good to you. And the sovereign scribes were called on the 13th day of the first new moon, and the decree was written according to all that Haman commanded, to the viceroys of the sovereign and to the governors who were over each province, and to the officials of all the people, to every province according to its writing, and to every people in their language. It was written in the name of sovereign Ahasuerus and sealed with the sovereign's signet ring. And the letters were sent by the runners into all of the sovereign's provinces to cut off, to kill, and to destroy all the Yahudim, both young and old, little children and women, in one day. On the 13th day of the 12th new moon, which is the new moon of Adar, and to plunder their possessions. A copy of the writing to be made a law in every province was published for all people to be ready for that day. I mean, they set a date where all the Yahudim, Judah, the Jews, are going to be annihilated. Some people will be paid to do so. The runners went out hastened by the sovereign's command, and the decree was given out in the citadel of Shushan. The sovereign and Haman then sat down to drink, but the city of Shushan was in confusion. People didn't know what, like, whoa, what's going on? What is going on? Right? So this is the decree is set out. Now again, king or sovereign Ahasuerus doesn't know, who's who, who's the Jew, who's not, who's Yahudim, who's not. He doesn't know his new wife is Yahudim. Not at this point. Right? And all Haman cares about is that, hey, this Mordecai guy did not show me proper respect. So he and his people got to go. I can't just kill him because that would be a bad look. But I'll just annihilate all of them because, Chapter 4, shall we? And Mordecai learned of all that had been done, and Mordecai tore his garments and put on a sackcloth and ashes and went into the midst of the city and cried out with a loud and bitter cry. And he went up to the front of the sovereign's gate, for no one might enter the sovereign's gate wearing sackcloth. And in every province where the sovereign's command and decree came, there was great mourning among the Yahudim, and fasting and weeping and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. See, Israel, we did this when we were crying out to our God. Even though God was not named in there, you still see what Israelite had done, right? You see what they do. Sign of mourning and lamentations. And Esther's young women and eunuchs came and told her, and the sovereigness was deeply pained and sent garments to Mordecai to wear and to take away his sackcloth from him, but he refused. And Esther called Hathach, one of the sovereign's eunuchs whom he had appointed to attend her, and she gave him a command concerning Mordecai to learn what and why this was. And Hathach went out to Mordecai to an open space of the city in front of the sovereign's gate, and Mordecai told him all that befell him, and all about the silver that Haman promised to pay into the sovereign's treasury to destroy the Yahudim. And he gave him a copy of the written decree to destroy them, which was given at Shushan, to show it to Esther and explain it to her, and to command her to go in to the sovereign to make supplication to him and plead before him for her people. And Hathach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Esther spoke to Hathach and gave him a command for Mordecai. All the sovereign servant and the people of the sovereign's provinces know that any man or woman who goes into the inner court to the sovereign who has not been called, he has but one law, to be put to death, except the one to whom the sovereign holds out the golden scepter, who then shall live. But I have not been called to come into the sovereigns these 30 days. And they declared to Mordecai the words of Esther. Mordecai commanded them to answer Esther, do not think within yourselves to escape in the sovereign's palace any more than all the other Yahudim. For if you keep entirely silent at this time, relief and deliverance shall arise for the Yahudim from another place, while you and your father's house perish. And who knows whether you have come to the reign of such a time as this? And Esther commanded to reply to Mordecai, go, gather all the Yahudim who are present in Shushan and fast for me. And do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I too, and my young women shall fast in the same way. Then I shall go to the sovereign, which is against the law. And if I shall perish, I shall perish. Mordecai then went away and did according to all that Esther commanded. Right? I'll go. It's against the law. I could get killed, but I'll do what I have to do. So basically, they want to plead and make supplication and want to end this impending slaughter. But we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going, right? We're not quite done. Chapter 5. And it came to be on the third day that Esther put a royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the sovereign's palace in front of the sovereign's house, while the sovereign sat on his royal throne in the royal house opposite the entrance of the house. And it came to be when the sovereign saw Sovereigness Esther standing in the court, that she found favor in his eyes, and the sovereign held out to Esther the golden scepter which was in his hand, and Esther went near and touched the top of the scepter. And the sovereign said to her, what is it, Sovereigness Esther, and what is your request? Up to half my reign, and it is given to you. And Esther answered, if it pleases the sovereign, and let the sovereign and Haman come today to the feast which I have prepared for him. And the sovereign said, get Haman at once to do as Esther has said. Then the sovereign and Haman went to the feast which Esther had prepared. And the sovereign said to Esther at the feast of wine, what is your petition? And it is given to you. And what is your request? Up to half my reign, and it is done. You can have half my kingdom. It's yours. Just ask for it, right? 7. And Esther answered and said, my petition and request is this. If I have found favor in your eyes, in the eyes of the sovereign, and if it pleases the sovereign to give my petition and perform my request, then let the sovereign and Haman come to the feast which I make for them. And tomorrow I shall do according to the word of the sovereign. And Haman went out that day rejoicing and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the sovereign's gate, and that he did not stand or tremble before him, he was filled with wrath against Mordecai. But Haman held himself in, and came to his house, and sent and called for his loved ones and Zeresh, his wife. And Haman recounted to them the esteem of his wealth and his many sons, and all in which the sovereign had promoted him, and how he had exalted him above the officials and servants of the sovereign. And Haman said, besides Esther, the sovereigness, let no one but me come in with the sovereign to the feast which she prepared. And tomorrow too I am invited by her along with the sovereign. But all this does not suit me as long as I see Mordecai, the Yahudi sitting at the sovereign's gate. So his wife Zeresh and all his loved ones said to him, let a wooden structure be made 50 cubits high, and in the morning speak to the sovereign that Mordecai be hanged on it. And go with the sovereign to the feast rejoicing. And the word pleased Haman, and he had the wooden structure made. So we're starting to get the picture. His ego, his pride welling up in him. He said, everything is good. I have everything. But it's just this one thing that is bothering me. This one thing vexes me, disturbs me. The fact that Mordecai lives offends me. Every breath he draws enrages me. We're going to go to chapter 6. On that night, the sleep of the sovereign fled, and he commanded to bring the book of the records of the annals, and they were read before the sovereign. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bethana and Cheresh, two of the sovereign's eunuchs, the doorkeepers who had sought to lay hands on sovereign Ahasuerus. Then the sovereign said, "What has been done in the value or in greatness to Mordecai for this?" And the sovereign servants who attended him said, "Naught has been done for him." And the sovereign said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman had come into the outer court of the sovereign's palace to speak to the sovereign to hang Mordecai on the wooden structure that he had prepared for him. And the sovereign servant said to him, "Look, Haman is standing in the court." And the sovereign said, "Let him come in." And when Haman came in, the sovereign asked him, "What is to be done for the man whom the sovereign delights to value?" Now Haman thought in his heart, "Whom would the sovereign delight to value more than me?" And Haman answered the sovereign, "For the man whom the sovereign delights to value, let a royal robe be brought, which the sovereign has worn, and a horse on which the sovereign has ridden, and one with a royal crest placed on his head. And let the robe and the horse be given into the hand of one of the sovereign's most noble princes. Let them dress the man whom the sovereign delights to value, and make him ride on horseback through the city square, and proclaim before him, 'Thus it is done to the man whom the sovereign delights to value.' And the sovereign said to Haman, 'Hurry, take the robe and the horse as you have spoken, and do so for Mordecai, the Yehudi, who sits in the sovereign's gate. Let no word fail of all that you have spoken.' And Haman took the robe and the horse, and robed Mordecai, and led him on horseback through the city square, and proclaimed before him, 'Thus it is done to the man the Lord delights to value.'" Pause to note. Haman thought it was going to be him that's going to get the robe and the horse and the crest and so on. He thought it was him. He thought it was he that the sovereign delighted in. And lo and behold, is Mordecai, the very man whom he hates. The irony. The irony. Let us continue. Yeah. 12. Then Mordecai went back to the sovereign's gate, but Haman hurried to his house, mourning and with covered head. And when Haman related to his wife Zeresh and all his loved ones all that had befallen him, his wise men and his wife Zeresh said unto him, "If Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is from the seed of Yehudim, you are not going to prevail against him, but certainly fall before him." While they were still speaking with him, the sovereign's eunuchs came and hurried to bring Haman to the feast which Esther had prepared. Let's continue. Chapter 7. And the sovereign and Haman came in to drink with sovereigness Esther, and again on the second day at the feast of wine. The sovereign said to Esther, "What is your petition, sovereigness Esther? And it is given to you. And what is your request? Up to half my reign or kingdom, and it is done," or it is yours. And sovereigness Esther answered and said, "If I have found favor in your eyes, O sovereign, and if it pleases the sovereign, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we have been sold, my people and I, to be cut off, to be killed, and to be destroyed. And if we had been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept silent, although the adversary could not make up for the sovereign's loss." Then sovereign Ahasuerus asked sovereign Esther, "Who is he, and where is he, whose heart is set to do so?" And Esther said, "The adversary and enemy is this evil Haman." Then Haman was afraid before the sovereign and sovereigness. And the sovereign arises in his wrath from the feast of wine, went into the palace garden. Haman remained before sovereigness Esther, pleading for his life, for he saw that evil had been decided against him by the sovereign. And when the sovereign returned from the palace garden to the place of the feast of wine, Haman was falling on the couch where Esther was. Then the sovereign said, also to ravish the sovereigness while I am in the house? As the word left the sovereign's mouth, they covered Haman's face. And Harbonah, one of the eunuchs, said to the sovereign, also see the wooden structure 50 cubits high, which Haman made for Mordecai, who spoke good on behalf of the sovereign, and standing at the house of Haman. And the sovereign said, impale him on it. And they hanged Haman on the wooden structure that he had prepared for Mordecai, and the sovereign's wrath abated. Wow. Kind of reminds you of that saying, what the enemy has set for evil, God used for good, one of those, Christian anecdotes there. But Haman meant annihilation for Israel, for the Israelite. He meant wiping them out. They come out of the Babylonian captivity, and now they're in the Persian captivity, the Medo-Persian captivity, and they were about to get done dirty. They were about to get done something filthy. But as fortune would have it, this evil plot was exposed. The deep state, as it were, eliminated. Hanged on the very death trap you set for Mordecai and for the Yahudim. Let us keep going. Let's go to chapter 8. On that day, sovereign Ahasuerus gave to the sovereigness Esther the house of Haman and the adversary of the Yahudim. And Mordecai came before the sovereign, for Esther had explained what he was to her. Pause to note. You notice that if you show honor and respect to the Most High, that even in your captivity, he can bless you. Was not Joseph blessed in his Egyptian captivity? Was not Daniel blessed in the Babylonian captivity? Is not Esther now blessed in the Medo-Persian captivity? Let's keep going. Verse 2 of chapter 8, and the sovereign took off his signet ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai. And Esther appointed Mordecai over the house of Haman. And Esther spoke to the sovereign again and fell down at his feet and begged him with tears to put an end to the evil of Haman the Agagite and his plot which he had plotted against the Yehudim. And the sovereign held out the golden scepter towards Esther, and Esther arose and stood before the sovereign and said, if it pleases the sovereign, and if you have found favor in his sight, if I have found favor in his sight, and the matter is right before the sovereign, and I am pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to bring back the letters, the plot by Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Yahudim, who are in all the sovereign's provinces. For how could I bear to see the evil coming to my people? Or how could I bear to see the destruction of my relatives? And sovereign Ahasuerus said to sovereigness Esther and Mordecai, the Yehudi, look, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and they have hanged him on the wooden structure because he laid his hand on the Yahudim. Now, you write on behalf of the Yahudim as it pleases you in the sovereign's name, and seal it with the sovereign's signet ring. For a letter which is written in the sovereign's name and sealed with the sovereign's signet ring, no one turns back. So the sovereign scribes were called at that time, and in the third new moon, which is the new moon of Siwan, on the 23rd day. And it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded, to the Yahudim and to the viceroys and to the governors and the princes of the provinces from India to Cush, 127 provinces. To every province in its own writing, to every people in their own language, and to the Yahudim in their own writing and in their own language. And he wrote in the name of the sovereign Ahasuerus and sealed it with the sovereign signet ring and sent letters by runners on horseback, riding on royal horses bred from speedy mares. That the sovereign has granted to the Yahudim who were in every city to be assembled and stand for their lives, to cut off, to kill, and to destroy all the powers of the people or the province who would distress them, little children and women, and to plunder their possessions. So he basically said they can fight back, they can defend themselves, they can stand their ground. They have the right to bear arms to protect themselves. Verse 12, and on the day in all the provinces of the sovereign Ahasuerus, on the 13th day of the 12th new moon, which is the new moon of Hadar, the copy of the writings to be made law in every province was announced to all the people, so that the Yahudim would be ready on that day to be avenged on their enemies. The runners, riding on royal horses, went out, hastened and pressed on by the sovereign's command. And the decree was given out in the citadel of Shushan. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the sovereign wearing royal garments of blue and white, with a great crown of gold and a garment of fine linen and purple. And the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad. For the Yahudim there was light and gladness and joy and value. And in every province and in every city where the sovereign's command had decree came, the Yahudim had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day. And many of the people of the land were becoming Yahudim, for the fear of the Yahudim had fallen upon them. Right? Pause to note and a quick aside. This is a picture of being grafted in. I know many of my brethren, particularly of the Israelite ilk, they would say that other people cannot become Yahudim. They cannot become Israelite because it is a bloodline. Well, we're looking at an early account, not to mention the Egyptians who came out with Israel, but we're looking at an early account of someone becoming Jew. They say, and in that day in your King James, say, and they became Jews. In the scripture versions, it says, and they became Yahudim. We know Jew is short for Judah, but they became that in practice, in faith, in ritual, in tradition, right? I understand the book of Esther does not mention the Most High Yah, but you guys, you get the point. You get the point. So we're going to finish up over here in chapter 9. We're going to read up to 19 and then we'll skip to 30. I'm going to start at 1. And in the 12th new moon, that is the new moon of Adar, and on the 13th day, when the sovereign's command and his decree came to be done, and on the day that the enemies of the Yehudim had waited to overpower them, it turned around so that the Yehudim overpowered those who hated them. The Yehudim assembled in their cities throughout all the provinces of the sovereign Ahasuerus to lay hands on those who sought their evil. And no one stood against them, because fear of them fell upon all the people. And all the officials of the provinces and the viceroys and the governors and all those doing the sovereign's work helped the Yehudim, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. For Mordecai was great in the palace of the sovereign, and his report spread into all the provinces. For this man Mordecai became greater and greater. And the Yahudim struck all their enemies with the stroke of a sword, with killing and destruction, and did what they pleased to those who hated them. And in the citadel of Shushan, the Yahudim killed and destroyed 500 men. In the Persia, in the Daphan, in Aspata, in Porata, in Adalia, in Aridata, and Permashta, and the Rishai, and Aridai, and Zata. The 10 sons of Haman, son of Hamadata, nailed it. The enemy of the Yehudim they killed, but they did not lay a hand on the plunder. And on that day, the number of those who were killed in the citadel of Shushan came before the sovereign. And the sovereign said to Sovereigness Esther, the Yehudim have killed and destroyed 500 men in the citadel of Shushan, and the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the sovereign's provinces? And what is your petition? and it is given to you. And what is your further request? And it is done. And Esther said, if it pleases the sovereign, let it be given to the Yehudim who are in Shushan to do again tomorrow according to today's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged on the wooden structure. She want to make sure this job is done thoroughly. And the sovereign commanded this to be done, and the decree was given in Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. So we're going to skip down, brothers and sisters. We're going to go ahead and take a look. I'm going to go to 30 and 32. And Mordecai sent letters to all the Yahudim, to the 127 provinces of the reign of Ahasuerus, words of peace and truth, to establish these days of Purim at their appointed times, as Mordecai, the Yahudi, and the sovereign Esther had established for them, and as they had established for themselves and their seed concerning matters of their fastings and lamenting. And the decree of Esther established these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book. So this is how we have Purim, brothers and sisters. Now, I didn't, read, there's spots where we didn't read, but I want you guys to get the idea. It's a celebration in remembrance of not being destroyed, utterly wasted. And some people would like to remember that. Some people would like to commemorate that. And this is a time of gift giving, right? Now, I know some people out there who are not of the faith, they love their paganism, they want gift giving at the end of the year. But in this one, they would use, and it's by tradition, but they would give gift giving is kind of a thank you, hey, we didn't die. Hey, let's celebrate, let's have a drink, we didn't die. Let's cook, let's have a feast, because we see they have feasts throughout in this book. Feasts are a big thing. So they have feasts. If you want to establish that, if you want to teach that, if you want to do gift giving, at least do it in the right way. At least do it in a way that honors the ancestors. At least observe it in a way that honors the Most High Yah. You're just remembering, hey, we were not annihilated. We were not utterly destroyed. The Most High did not allow us to be wiped off the face of the earth. There are tribes of people, particularly a few that the Bible speaks of, that those people don't even exist anymore. And yet, by His grace, we're still here. Which means it affords us an opportunity to do better, to get better, to press on, to do that which is pleasing in His sight. We have that opportunity. What are you going to do with it? So, we got a little bit of history of Purim, the Feast of Lots. You learned about Haman and Mordecai and Esther and the King Ahasuerus. Got a snapshot of the Medo-Persian reign over Israel. And should you decide to commemorate this particular feast, you at least know why. You at least know what it means. So, before we get out of here, let me remind you to like, share, comment, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Don't forget to smash that notification bell, because I don't want you to miss any of our lessons. Until next time, search the scriptures. Improve all things. Shalom, Israel.